Let's go back. Let's go way back. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and as always guys, I am Andrew, and today I've got another book review for you. But before we get to that book review, make sure you are liking, subscribing, hitting that bell notification so you can get regular updates for when I put out new content. I post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Also, make sure you're checking that description box down below for the link to the Wizardly Duo Discord, links to my social media, and information about my Patreon. That said guys, this is the book that won my patron buddy read, so we all read this in the Patreon, and I have thoughts. This is going to be a kind of a critical, it's not a negative review, but it's not a positive review either. Specifically, this is Michael J. Sullivan's Age of Myth. This is book 1 in Legends of the First Empire, and I've got some thoughts on it. Specifically, this takes place 3,000 years prior to Rhaenyra Revelations. Or is it Rhaenyra? He says it a particular way, and I can never quite get my mouth, so I'm just going to say Rhaenyra Revelations. This is ancient history. This is following some of the stuff that kind of got revealed in Revelations, and it's actually one of the things that started me off on the wrong foot with this series. Essentially, if you're going to read this, I suggest you don't read the foreword. The foreword won't trigger everybody, but it did me. It kind of started me out irritated from the get-go. Essentially, when reading that foreword, he states that he does not release a single book in this series without having everything written so that all of the plot lines make sense, everything and all the character arcs are well polished. He's like, this gets the best quality product for me. Fine. But then he goes on further to say that, readers of Rhaenyra Revelations think they know what's going to happen, so they may not want to read my series. They go in with a certain expectation. Go ahead and throw that out. You don't understand what's going on because history is written by the victors. My main issue with this is that I didn't read 2,200 pages of Revelations for you to not get it right the first time. This is a personal thing that irks me, is if you wanted to write more books, that's fine. Literally, I would not have a single issue if you had just left that out of the foreword. If you'd have just stopped at, I write every single book. But instead you tell me that the revelations that I got in the series named Revelations were just written by the victors and therefore incorrect. And so now I have to read an additional 6 books. I'm not super okay with that kind of vibe. Additionally, I've got some issues with the print quality on the hardcover, and really, it's just a very small issue, is if you're going to buy the hardcover, be aware that if you put it all the way to the bottom, that your dust jacket does not cover the entirety of the naked hardback. They are cut short. It's a small gripe, but it still bugs me, mainly because these are out of print, hard to find, and the prices that these are going for, I would highly recommend either going audio, ebook, because the narrator does a great job as well. I did both, or going the paperback route. I would not spring for the hardcovers. If you're a neurotic collector, let's classify that. Now, I sound like I'm being super critical about it, and I kind of am, mainly because of the statement that he writes all the books so that everything can be polished really, really well. And I've got a controversial statement about one of the characters that I just think is not written well and kind of showcases some of the weaknesses, in my opinion, that Michael J. Sullivan has with his writing, which pertains to timing. The main issue is that the Revelations is about a group of humans. It is the human race is the main focus there. In Revelations, we've got a 900-year gap where, the last empire, or the last emperor, fell, and they're trying to reinstitute it after 900 years. That doesn't make any sense to me. That's too long of a time gap. That's basically saying, hey, in today's day and age, those dark ages? Let's go back to that. So he's got a thing with timing that kind of bugs me, because, in Revelations, they're trying to find the heir of Navron. It's been 900 years. That's ancient history. And we've got another thing here with timing in the exact opposite direction. And I'll touch on that in a minute. Let's just kind of get into the crux of this. And then I'll kind of give you my overall feeling, rating, enjoyment level, what have you. This is basically set in the ancient past, and it takes place 3,000 years prior to Rare Revelations. And in this time, the Frey and the Runes, which are just your kind of typical humans, very short-lived. Your Frey are kind of like your elf-like characters. The Runes, or your humans, look at the Frey as gods. And so basically they have separated their lands. The Frey have kind of shoved the Runes onto like the worst lands, and they've kept all like the technology and the magic for themselves. And even among the Frey, they've got like different classes. And the Merreleaf are like your magic users, and the Merreleaf have just recently come to power, and they're starting to kind of get a little bit thoughts of above their station of, hey, maybe we are gods, and stuff like that. And so then a Rune kills a Frey for the first time, and this kind of instigates some events to happen throughout the book. In the lands of the Frey, our main focus is set in a Dol, which is just kind of like a small community called Dol Ren. In there, we get some human characters where basically we've got Persephone, Suri, and Mina are our main focus. Mina is a wolf. She is an animal companion to Suri, who is a mystic, which is just kind of like a kind of wise woman who's only like 14, who's 14 years old and like lives in the woods. So she's kind of like a medicine woman, kind of mystic character, talks to the trees, almost like a druid. And then of course we follow Persephone, who is the second chair of Dol Ren. She is the wife of Regland, and basically when we meet Persephone, this is where my issues come around. When we meet Persephone, we are in Persephone's head, we are getting her thoughts, and she is just going about her daily life. She runs into Suri and starts having a random conversation with Suri. And then, like, the bells toll, because basically Regland, her husband, has gone out to fight the Brown, which is this bear that we find out 3 days prior ended up killing Persephone's son. Now, this is where I've got a slight controversial statement to make. Because we're in Persephone's head, and it's only been 72 hours since the death of her son, we get no emotional stakes until those bells ring. We get zero anxiety from her. We get zero grief. We get zero hint that this woman has been dealt any sort of drama. And so when it comes to Persephone's character, she always feels emotionally distant because of this. Even when, like, we get the stakes and the revelations of what happens on the hunt for the Brown, I don't get a lot of emotional impact from her as a character. She feels very much like a cardboard cutout. Because she doesn't deal with grief. She doesn't deal with loss. You could say that she's in a state of shock, possibly. But even then, she's still cracking jokes. Like, she's not numb or anything. Like, it's never in her front of what she's lost. It's more of an inconvenience to her. Which feels kind of weird because we're supposed to care for Persephone as a character, but I, the reader, am not made to care about what she is going through, mainly because it's just kind of inconvenient to her at any given moment. Like, people still hit on her and she's like, oh, you're cute, and things of that nature, and it just feels very weird. Within Dol Ren, because of the events, we also have Regland's first shield, Conager. Conager is kind of this brutish individual who never really, he just felt very, I don't know, he felt very basic, like a very basic kind of antagonist, almost. He is an antagonistic character, but at times, he just felt simple. And so, anything he does didn't surprise me. And that kind of leads me into one of my main issues with this book, is this feels very, very intro level. This is something I would give to somebody who is either A, looking to get into fantasy, or B, a reader who does not like complex fantasy, who does not like well-hidden twists and reveals, who does not like to be surprised, who likes very, very clear-cut fantasy. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but Age of Myth basically just exists. It is a nice book to sit back and relax and just read. Basically, this is one of those books that reads itself. I saw a lot of the twists coming well before the reveal, and even before like some of the characters. Like the twist is revealed to the characters, and the characters are just so dense and so, I don't know, they're written in such a way that like they get the twist and they're just like, huh? And so like, I've got some mixed feelings. I've heard this is the weakest book, so that's fine. Also, from the human characters, we've got Malcolm and we've got Rafe. Rafe is a human, and I mentioned earlier where a human had killed a Frey. Basically, Malcolm and Rafe get thrown together through just crazy circumstances, and they are running for their life because, you know, in a fit of rage, a Frey, or in a fit of annoyance, I should say, a Frey kills Malcolm's father, and so he kills a Frey out of revenge. And so they go on the run. Basically, these two are your stereotypical Royce and Hadrian. It seems to be a relationship that MJS wants to continue throughout his series. So it's very much, I would say Malcolm is very Hadrian-like, and Rafe is more Royce-like. So they feel very much like those characters from Rare Revelations. Let's talk about the Frey. The Frey, we have got Arian and, their names are very, very complicated to say. I believe one of them is Grendel. These are our two main, and Nephron, which readers of Revelations will recognize this name. So these three individuals are our main three, Frey characters. And two of them come from the Merilith, and one comes from a different sect, who is just basically, he is the son of the previous Thane, which is the ruler of the Frey. They issue a challenge, and whatever sect has challenged the current sect, they then vie for power in a battle to the death. Which is significant because the Frey cannot kill each other due to something called Farrell's Law. Literally, no matter what happens, only the Thane has the authority, which he can give out to other people, to kill another Frey. So there is no murder within the Frey. There is illusions and trickery, and like you can use illusions to make somebody think they're burning to death, but at the end you can't actually burn them to death or really hurt them all that much. And through this, it creates a weird kind of society where you've kind of put up with everybody's crap. Like, you can imprison somebody, but, like, only for so long, because they live for, like, 2,500 to 3,000 years. They have insanely long lifespans, which is why the runes think that these people are gods. Grendel is very much this egomaniacal antagonist. He thinks that the Merilith rule through right of might. Because we have magic, the people with the swords can possibly never touch us. Very, very evil, very, very stereotypical, very mustache twirling, which is fine. At no point do you think, man, this guy's a competent villain. And then you've got Arian, who is very much like, she doesn't understand, like, she's like, I don't believe that we're gods, we're just very much magic users, and she believes in the art, which is the magic in this world, and it's very just fine. She is a good character to read from. She's a little antagonistic to some people, and other people she's very understanding, she's very open-minded, and she is one of the highlights of this book. Speaking of highlights, I did mention that druid-like character, or the mystic, Suri. Suri is the runaway favorite in this book. She is very, very fun to read. She's very, very just sarcastic. She doesn't understand why people live in buildings. Like, the fact that people live in buildings just mystifies her. She doesn't get it. She's got a wolf named Mina, who she can kind of communicate with. We don't know if this is magic-based or what's going on here. Their interactions are fantastic. I would say Suri and Mina's interactions is one of the favorites that I've read in a long time. It's very, very rare where I get an animal companion where I'm like, you know what? I enjoyed that. Suri and Mina definitely have that. So overall, let's just talk about pacing, structure, enjoyment level, do I recommend, things of that nature. So, pacing, this book basically reads itself. There's no complex parts. There's nothing that's going to make you feel super uncomfortable. There's nothing that's going to gross you out. This is very cookie-cutter fantasy. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. It all has its place. This is a good book. It's an enjoyable read for when you just want to turn your brain off and enjoy some fantasy. I highly enjoyed it. I do have the other 5 books, let's see if you can see it, right here in hardcover. I am actually already... I've got the 3rd book on my, I think, the 2nd book on my February TBR. I will be continuing this series because I do want to see where these characters go. All right, and so let's talk about enjoyment level, all that sort of stuff. Do I recommend pacing, things of that nature? So I mentioned earlier, this is very cookie cutter fantasy, which is not a bad thing. This is something that if you've just been reading too many bricks, or you're starting to experience, like, genre burnout, and you need something very, very simple, very, very palate cleansing, this is the series. As you can see right here, I've got all the books down here. This is a series I do plan to continue. I've got book 2 on my February TBR. I enjoyed the series. I know I sound like I've been very critical on it. That's just because Michael J. Sullivan gets a lot of hype, and I kind of want to give my honest opinions. If I had to give a star rating for this, I think I would give this 3.5 stars. If I had to do an enjoyment and a recommend, yeah, I recommend it. It's not anything, it's not YA or anything like that. I've heard the term new adult thrown around recently. It might fall into that genre. This is fantasy. It does have very, very, very basic themes, very tropey revelations, very simple plot twists. The reveals you will probably see coming. That said, guys, it is a good book. It is a decent read. It's not anything that I think is mind-blowing and you should go, like, throw out your TBR and read Age of Myth now. I don't think that that is the case. But I did enjoy the experience, and I do plan on continuing the series. That said, guys, that is my thoughts on Age of Myth. Please let me know in the comments down below. Have you read this? Do you plan on reading it? Please, I would love to have a discussion about anything that Michael J. Sullivan has read, because, frankly, I do have all of his released works. I've got Chronicles, I've got Revelations, I've got the first book in Nolan, and I've got Legends of the First Empire. I don't have the novellas, but I'll probably end up getting those as well. Michael J. Sullivan is an author that I plan to read everything by. I just kind of wanted to give an honest book review here. That said, guys, that is the end of the review. Please let me know in the comments down below what you thought. So, till next time, guys, peace out. Stay magical. Bye. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons.